Hello everyone, and welcome to Strategy. This is a series of videos explaining business strategy. Today, we're going to see the resource base.
Do you remember our business model? Well, we've covered the product offering, we've covered the activity system, and now we're going to discuss the resource base.
The resource base, or the stock of assets, can take several shapes. It could be a brand, it could be manufacturing facilities like a factory, it could be expertise like in a consulting firm, it could be data like in Google, for example, or Facebook, it could be a skill that the company has that no other company has. It could be a digital platform that enables other people, like eBay, for example. Or it could be a network that brings together different players. Or in general, it could be any asset capable of generating revenue. Resources are then heterogeneous and imperfectly mobile, so they don't appear in the same type everywhere, and they cannot be easily moved from one place to the other one. And it is a very important management task to acquire these assets, or to understand or to organize these resources to aim at achieving a sustainable competitive advantage. That's why resources exist, to generate revenue. Resources in general can be of three types. First, relational resources like relationships or reputation, very important in universities. Another type would be competences like knowledge or capabilities or a specific attitude. And finally, resources can be tangible, like land, building, material, and money. You can also think of intangible resources. Somehow competences and relational resources are intangible resources. And land, buildings, materials, and money are tangible resources. Now, how can we distinguish resources that are valuable from resources that are perhaps not that valuable? The best way to distinguish this is the return on assets. The return on assets is defined as the net income divided by the total assets. So you can see that it's a proportion. It's the proportion of profit that is generated from these assets. The return on asset is the more accurate way to measure profitability. It allows comparison between current and previous performance, and it also allows comparison with competitors. Those competitors with a higher return on assets would be more desirable than the ones that have a lower return on assets. One of the best reasons why the return on assets is used as a measure of the value of resources is because it takes into account the firm's debt. So, the higher the debt, the more influence it will have on the return on assets. Having a high return on assets with a high debt is practically impossible. So, in order to wrap up, resources are supposed to generate income, and that is what makes them valuable. How do you measure this value? Through the return on assets. Now, how do we know that resources have the potential of achieving sustained competitive advantage? Well, there's an easy way to do it, and it's called the resource-based view that was generated by Jay Barney in 1991. This simple theory basically says that in order for resources to have the potential of generating the competitive advantage, they have to have four characteristics, which are on the slide. They have to be valuable, they have to be rare, they have to be imperfectly imitable, and they cannot be substituted. I'll go one by one. First, they have to be worth something. So they have to be valuable. They have to be rare. If you find them in every corner, probably they won't be able to generate the competitive advantage. You cannot imitate it very easily. And finally, it has to be developed within your organization. Or, in other words, there has to be no strategically equivalent valuable resources. This one is the hardest one. It's the hardest one to determine. Now, if you find a resource that complies with these four conditions, It's like winning the lottery. Most resources won't comply with all these conditions, will comply with some of them, and will comply to a certain extent. The reason why we use the resource-based view is because it gives us a hint of what resources have more potential and what resources have less potential. And that's it for the resource-based and the stock of assets today.